the international break. The Premier League resumed this weekend, and as always, it was intriguing. And this year particularly, the title obviously lies between Manchester City and Liverpool, but the other big prizes, qualification for the Champions League and, of course, staying in the Premier League, relegation, is a huge issue for almost every game now, has something on it. And, of course, next Sunday, Manchester City host Liverpool at the Etihad, and that may be the game that decides who wins. But there is much more at stake. Arsenal have a game tonight at Crystal Palace, which is very, very urgent indeed. To discuss what we saw at the weekend, I'm joined by Liam Brady and John Giles, and it's a great pleasure to welcome the two lads. Liam, let me start with you. Liverpool and Manchester City playing Watford and Burnley respectively. They got over the line, in City's case, quite comfortably. Liverpool weren't great, Liam, in terms of energy. A lot of players coming back from Brazil, 3 of them, I think, Fabinho and the goalkeeper and Firmino. Also, Mo Salah coming back from a long trip. Mane coming back. These 12 o'clock matches after you've been away on a break are tough enough. They did enough to win, but if Watford had taken a couple of chances, it could have been a different story.
Yeah, Watford had a couple of chances, I mean, one from a corner and then one just before Liverpool scored. It was a performance, as you said, you got to take all those things into consideration. I heard Klopp after the game saying you hardly any time to prepare the team because players are coming back Thursday after a long trips and so forth, and it looked that way, didn't it? Salah wasn't himself. He looked lethargic. Mane didn't play but came on. I would just say that was a game where they just wanted to get over the line. Jota got a terrific first goal.
Yes.
He's been a great signing for them, and he's a real player's player. He's understated really, but you look at the amount of goals he's contributed to Liverpool since he's been there. He really has been a marvellous signing. It was one of those games, Eamon, where you just had to get the points on the board, the way things were going. And Liverpool did deserve to win, but they weren't at their very best. Yeah,
John, Jota is a hell of a player. He scored more headed goals than any other player in the Premier League this season. But he's been around. I looked at his CV all the way back. He's been around for a long time and out on loan, never really appreciated. And they got him for 40 million sterling. He's another great buy, isn't he?
Oh yeah, well he's fitted well into the team, and he was a very good player at Wolverhampton. I thought he was scoring a lot of goals for them as well, so it was an excellent buy for him, and he's really done his stuff. The goals he scored, and his heading ability is incredible.
Yeah,
because he's not a big fella.
No,
he's one of the smaller guys in the game today.
Yeah,
but his timing is terrific and brave.
Yes, very brave.
Even the one he scored, the goalkeeper was coming out. We saw a couple of weeks ago when who's the goalkeeper came out and nearly took his head off. Should have been sent off in the match.
Yeah,
and anything that's in the air like that, and you go for it and only see the ball, you have to be brave to do it and good. His technique is excellent. And the height he gets from it is incredible, really. So, Liverpool didn't play as well as they can play. Watford had a couple of chances, but you get games like that in the season, as we all know. But once you win them, it's okay. The players come back from long journeys, you say, tired, not at their best, but they had enough and did enough to win.
Yeah, and to be fair to
that's the main thing.
Yeah, Roy Hodgson is trying to keep Watford in the Premier League. To be fair to him, they had 3 weeks of a rest. They gave it everything they had. They had one great chance in the second. Alisson made a very good save in the first half. That's the one that ended up in the back of Watford's net after that. But João Pedro, the Watford centre-forward, had a real good chance in the second half. Just went past the far post. But the job was done, as you say. Liam, Manchester City were much more ruthless and efficient. After 5 minutes, De Bruyne gave them the lead at Burnley. Then Gundogan got their second goal, 25 minutes, game over. And Burnley didn't do what they normally do, which is press aggressively, put pressure on the ball and battle. He's had a hard time there, Sean Dyche. He's done a fantastic job to keep them in the Premier League. I don't know for how long now, for 10 years maybe, with no money to spend. There's new owners at the club now, and they have games in hand, and they could get out of jail, but it's not looking great. And it's a great shame for a guy like that, isn't it? To do miracles at a club. New owners come along, you get the sack, and then they spend a few bob.
I don't know what's going to happen there, Eamon, whether that's going to be the case, but Dyche has done a great job, as you say. I wouldn't be surprised if he still keeps them up, Eamon. They were a bit flat on Saturday. I think the early goal scored by De Bruyne kind of deflated them, and they never really got going. You know, it was a routine win for Man City. Sterling did well as well for both goals. You know, he set the two of them up. De Bruyne's was a great finish, and then Gundogan, a good finish as well from an assist by Sterling. But it was a routine win for Man City. Burnley, they've got a big match on Wednesday, I think it is, Eamon, against Everton. If they can win that, they're back in it, you know. And they bring Everton.
A couple of games in hand as well. Not of
Everton,
Everton
are. I don't know what they're ahead of them, maybe 3 or 4. But if they beat Everton, they bring them right back into it. And I watched Everton play West Ham at the weekend, and they were very, very poor. You know, they'd be in trouble if it wasn't for the teams having such a bad time down below them. But I don't think Everton are out of it by any means. But Easter time, everything comes to the boil, and next week we've got Man City, Liverpool, Man City at home. You know, it's going to be a tremendous finish to the season. We said, what was it, a couple of months ago, that Liverpool were going to have to put an unbelievable run together to get back at City, and they've done just that. There are 10 winning games in the Premier League is a fantastic run, and it's given them every chance now of winning. But, you know, obviously next week, that's the big match.
Yeah, of course it is. And they have to play conceivably 3 times against each other, because they could meet in the Champions League final. They're in different halves of that draw. And they could also, they are due to meet in the FA Cup semi-final in a little while as well. John, I want to go to Tottenham and their performance yesterday, which I thought was amazing. They went a goal down, a bad goal too. Hugo Lloris should have stopped it. Playing Newcastle, who are rejuvenated now. He's bought well, Eddie Howe. But they came out, they scored an equaliser before half time, actually, in the 3 minutes that was left. But they came out in the second half and they gave Newcastle a right hide in. I thought it was a superb performance. Harry Kane man of the match, although he didn't score, but he did everything else. This fella Conte is a hell of a manager, John.
Oh, yeah, I think he's the real McCoy. I mean, it shows by his CV, you know, wherever he's been, he's won. I mean, he was at Chelsea a few years ago, wins the cup and the league in the first year, and the cup in the second year, and he's sacked.
Yeah.
You know, his record is terrific. I mean, if you look at the situation, there was a ridiculous comment a couple of weeks ago from Manchester United, when somebody asked him there about Conte. And he said, with the players that we have, it doesn't suit Conte. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the opposite way around of what you're looking at. In other words, they have good players, but it's not Conte's type.
Yeah.
Load of rubbish, you know, but I mean, they were very, very impressive yesterday. You know, Newcastle have been going quite well. As you say, they went a goal down and really, really played them off the pitch. There was a pace about them, an honesty about them, which he brings, I think, to the clubs he goes to, and finished up winning really, really well. So far there, he hasn't hardly spent any money, and he's done the job that Spurs needed to be done in a big way. So, full marks to him, Eamon.
Yeah, and Liam, they're bang in with a chance of qualifying for the Champions League. Arsenal have 2 games in hand of them. They're level on points. Arsenal have a chance to later. Crystal Palace, of course. but they have to play each other. The game hasn't been given a date yet. It's said to be maybe in the last 10 days of the season, which is, well, it is what it is. Just want to ask you, Liam, about how highly you rate him. He got 2 players from Juventus in the window, Betancourt and Kulusevski. Now, Kulusevski looks a real good player, but the way he's got Harry Kane playing, I mean, he went on the pitch after full time yesterday and Harry Kane hadn't scored, but I thought it was a masterclass of deep lying centre forward play. His passing was brilliant. And he gave Harry Kane a real genuine hug of appreciation. And he's not a hugger, is he?
No, he's a demander, Eamon. He demands.
Yeah.
But he was well pleased with their performance, especially after going a goal behind. Tottenham are a good team. He's got them playing that kind of 3-4-3 with Harry Kane going where he wants to go. And you're right about the signings from Juventus, Betancourt and Kulusevski have really given the team a lift, after Christmas getting them. So they're banging the race to get fourth. It's all down to Arsenal now, Eamon. Arsenal have got 2 games in hand.
Yes.
Tottenham got slightly better goal difference, so there's nothing in it really there. So, they're a good team, Spurs. I think Kulusevski's been a great signing. He's teamed up well with Son and Kane. They've got good substitutes to come on, like Bergwijn, people like that. They're a good team. So I see it being a neck and neck till the end of the season with Arsenal. Arsenal got a big game tonight against Crystal Palace. That's not going to be easy. What Arsenal have got to do, Eamon, is show that they can get points from the teams in and around them, which they haven't really showed this season.
Yes.
So they've got to play United. They've got to go to Chelsea. They've got to go to West Ham. And as you say, they've got to go to Spurs whenever that's going to be. So it really is I think I've said it a few weeks ago. The Premier League season this year is so exciting. All down through the league. We've got the head-to-head we wanted at the top. We've got a battle for fourth and relegation still undecided what's going to happen there. So it's been a really good season and delighted to have it back after the international break.
I miss it.
Yeah, and this is going to be a big match tonight. And as you say, I think at Easter time, John will be able to tell you this as well. The season really comes to the boil. You get matches coming thick and fast, big games, can't afford to lose. The tension is increasing all the time, and this year is going to be probably the best year we've had that for a long time.
Yeah, John, I was thinking that. I mean, you've played in a championship winning team. Well, so has Liam in Italy, but in England, there's so many more games and it's so much tougher. In this final 8 games left, City and Liverpool, in this Easter period when the games stack up, what do you think is the biggest single factor that is an asset?
Well, obviously,
leaving aside players.
Sorry?
Leaving aside players.
Well, Easter in my day, Christmas Easter, you play 3 games in 4 days. We didn't have as many games in those days, Eamon. Like the lads coming from different places now and international matches, there's more and more of them than ever before. But it was always a crucial time because there was a lot of games played. You actually had 3 games in 4 days, both at Christmas and Easter. And Easter, obviously, they're coming towards the end of the season. But it was absolutely vital to win the matches, especially if you're playing against your nearest opponents. And that's going to be the case this year. But I worry a lot for the players, Eamon, because of the amount of matches they're playing.
Yes.
And Liverpool have a big squad of players, which is very, very beneficial, obviously, gone into these particular matches. So City as well. I think there's too many games for the players at the moment. But Easter will and usually did, if you played the 3 games in the 4 days or 3 games over 4 or 5 days now, can definitely decide the Premiership. And hugely important, Eamon, at that particular time, because we know we're coming near the end. There'll only be a few matches left, and it's vital to win those matches or do well in those matches.
Yeah, I mean, Liam, I'd just like to ask both of you. I'll start with you. Some people believe this is the best Premier League ever, that these two teams at the top, City and Liverpool, are the two best teams of the Premier League era. I'm not sure, but I kind of think that could be right. What do you think?
I think it is right, Eamon. I think Manchester United under Alex Ferguson dominated it far too easily for many, many years.
Yeah.
It was only Wenger at Arsenal who really matched up to him.
Yeah.
This was prior to Abramovich coming on the scene at Chelsea, and then Manchester City, getting people from Abu Dhabi to buy the club. So, this, in my opinion, that's correct. It really is a head-to-head. It wasn't so long ago that Liverpool got 99 points and still lost the league, by 1 point to Manchester City. Yeah. They really have dominated the scene, whereas Man City haven't done the stuff at Champions League level. They haven't won it under Guardiola yet. Klopp has done it. But they have been so far the outstanding teams. Although, let's not forget about Chelsea. Chelsea won the Champions League last year. Tuchel did a great job to straighten the ship. But, there has been between City and Liverpool the last few seasons. And they're two great teams. I prefer watching Liverpool. I think they're, maybe 10% more exciting with Salah, Mane and so forth, and the fullbacks getting forward. City are much more measured, much more possession orientated, but have some great players as well. I would agree with that. I couldn't argue with that, Eamon. They has been probably the best two teams in the Premier League since that great Arsenal team matching up to Man United.
Yeah, John, your view on that, John, would you agree that these two teams, and indeed the two coaches, are the best we've seen in the Premier League era?
I would think so, Eamon. And it's not just those teams, Eamon. All the other teams have improved.
Yes.
You take Chelsea now and Arsenal and, the standard now in the Premiership is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
If you look at the bottom, even right down to the middle of the table, Crystal Palace are a good side.
Yeah.
Wolves are a good side.
Yeah.
And the competition now to stay in the Premiership is huge.
Massive.
But to go to the top level, it's fantastic. As you say, with Manchester United and Ferguson here, there was lots of years they ran away with it, and Arsenal were the only ones that were challenging them. And then there was a big gap between them, those two and the rest of the club. So they've all improved, Eamon. So it makes it better and better, and particularly the race or the competition between Liverpool and Manchester City is unbelievable, really.
Now, Johns, I'll begin by asking you about the Manchester United situation. They played Leicester City at home on Saturday evening. It was a dreadful performance. It was a dreadful game, in my opinion. Pogba hauled off again. That's the fourth game in a row. I think he's been hauled off. De Gea made a miracle save. And Leicester, I thought, wrongly had a goal disallowed. The Manchester United situation, Ralph Rangnick said yesterday, he's quoted in this morning's papers, it will take 18 months to fix their problem. What do you think?
Well, it could take longer, Eamon, if they don't get the job rightly and get a proper manager in to do what needs to be done.
Yeah.
The new manager in is an interim manager, and it looks like he's not going to be there next year. That they're after a new manager now. And in the meantime, Eamon, what's incredible for the club, they've just given Fernandes
doubled his wages.
3-year contract.
Yeah, and doubled his wages.
Right. Doubled his wages. Now, who's made that decision?
Very good question.
You'd have to wait till the new manager came in and said who he wants, who he doesn't want. Does he want him there for 3 years? Does he not? Because he's not pulling up any trees at the moment, Fernandes. And you got him and Pogba as the two strikers at the weekend against Leicester.
Yeah.
This is madness.
Yes.
And the sooner they get a manager in, the better, because you can't do it without a manager. But obviously, the people behind the scenes think it's in their in their situation to give a new contract to one of their leading players, or somebody who might not be one of their leading players in the eyes of a new manager.
Exactly. Liam, just on that point that John's making, it's unbelievable that you could give a 3-year contract and double the wages for a player whilst there is no permanent manager in place, isn't it?
Well, I don't know how long he had to go on his contract, Eamon. Maybe 2 years. I don't know. They've got to protect themselves against players running down their contract as well. So yeah. I'm sure that was in their minds. And I don't know who's making the calls. That's the trouble about Man United. You don't know who's making the calls. Ranić is saying it's going to take 18 months. Is he going to be part of that 18 months as director of football? We don't know.
Not if a real manager, if a real coach goes there, there's no way he's going to.
Yeah, but didn't they give him a guarantee that was going to be the case?
Yeah, but the case, or I suppose the guarantee would be about making sure he gets paid for those 2 years. But I couldn't see, could you?
Can I just interrupt there? I don't think they ever said that he would be director of football, Liam.
What's he going to be, John, then?
Well, it didn't say.
Mm.
You know, because obviously
I thought he was going to be in control of the strategy of the club and all that. I don't know what his title was going to be.
Yeah, I thought
he was going to have an important role. So
anyway, we don't know even about that, Liam. You know, at the moment.
No, it's a mess. How long have we been saying it's a mess, John? 2 years,
a long time.
3 years. Yeah, a long time. It's a mess. And it was a mess again on Saturday. Pogba was absolutely awful. Never tried a leg. Yeah. You know, this Fernandes playing up front, that didn't work either. And you got Marcus Rashford on the bench. They're all over the place. Leicester should have beat them, you know.
Yeah.
They're just falling away, you know, very, very poor. Very, very poor. If you're a Man United fan, you'd just be saying, what have you got to look forward to with this? They need it, as John has been banging on for months. They need a proper manager to come in there, and he should be given his head and allowed to make the decisions, like whether we extend the contract of Fernandes or not. But for many, many years now, that's been taken out of the manager's hands, and this is why they are in the situation they're in.
Yeah, and now, John, Chelsea, a really remarkable result. Playing Brentford at home, it'd be a local rivalry, that in a big way. They went ahead and lost 4-1 at Stamford Bridge. Yeah. Now, we don't know. It's impossible to calculate the impact of what's been happening with Abramovich and the sanctions against him and the club, indeed, and the players and everyone concerned. It's hard to calculate what effect that must have had or appears to have had. I watched the match. It was a pretty dire performance. By their standards. And, their coach, Thomas Tuchel, has set himself very high standards.
Well, it was amazing. I mean, I didn't see the whole match. With Brentford, I thought a couple of weeks ago we're going to be in the relegation. They've had a couple of great results, including that one.
Yeah.
And the big story with Christian Eriksen coming back into it and scoring a couple of goals now is amazing. Yeah. But from Chelsea's point of view, I just read Tuchel's comments afterwards, and I don't know what he was talking about, Eamon. He said they were tired anyway, and they weren't mentally right because of all the matches they were playing. So whether the other situation with Abramovich and that is taking its toll, I would imagine it shouldn't do, really, because the players are players and they're training every day, and it's nothing to do with Abramovich what they do. But it was a very, very unbelievable result.
Yeah.
To do what they're doing, they're way behind now, as we know, in the race for the Premiership. But you would have thought, that Brentford would be a match that they were going to win instead of getting not just a draw, but an absolute hiding.
Hiding, yeah, Liam.
Hiding.
I think everything's up in the air there with players' contracts. Rudiger, for example, who scored a goal on Saturday. I mean, he's out of contract. It is a big deal, isn't it? Because if you don't have an owner, or if you get one of these American owners who are more interested in taking out than putting in, all of that kind of stuff. First of all, it can affect Thomas Tuchel, the coach. And secondly, I think it does affect players, because if you put in uncertainty into somebody's mind, it's not going to help them with their work, is it?
No, I think it's a combination of quite a lot of things. I do think the Abramovich situation will be taking its toll, as John said. I think the international break, players coming back. I think their position in the league where they know they can't win it, but they look pretty safe as regards the top four, and up against a team that had nothing to lose and are having a real go. To be fair, Brentford had a real go all season. But as John says, the story about Christian Eriksen is quite remarkable, isn't it?
Yes,
9 months without playing football, very nearly died,
Yes.
in the Euros in the summer. Has been, it's a fantastic story. Lovely goal. He scored for Denmark during the week as well with his first touch coming on. That's a remarkable story. But to go back to Chelsea, I think it's a combination of all those things, Eamon.
Yes.
And the other thing I didn't mention in that, they probably had an eye on the Champions League in the week, where they got to take Real Madrid on.
Yeah, and that's a very, very tough tie, because, I saw Madrid beat PSG in an incredible game.
Chelsea had the best, I think.
Yes.
They could take Real Madrid, and perhaps they had an eye on that game. They certainly weren't themselves at the weekend.
Okay, John. Leeds United.
Yeah.
A home draw against Southampton, which we know Southampton, decent team, even though their league position doesn't perhaps reflect how good they are. But Leeds got their 1-1 draw, and I'm looking at the league table now. They're 5 points ahead of Everton. But Everton have 3 games in hand. But Watford, Burnley and Norwich might save them. And I note that Phillips came on as a sub, so that he's their England international. So he may be on the mend, which would be a big help, wouldn't it?
Yeah. They had Bamford out and him out, and there's Cooper out for a long
Cooper's
time.
back, yeah.
Cooper's back as well, and I only saw the highlights, Eamon, so I didn't see the whole match. But they got a draw, and they are getting away. I think they will survive, because Burnley are going to be into it. Everton, you think Everton with the players they have should get out of it, Eamon, but they're not showing that at the moment.
They've 3 games in hand of Leeds, John, and but they're 5 points behind. Burnley have also got 3 games in hand of Leeds, but they're 10 points behind, or 9 points behind them. So they should be okay.
They should be okay, Eamon. Yeah, they've got a couple of points, started a few points now recently, and I think it should get them away, because Norwich look down. Watford, I think, will go as well. So it's between those 3 or 4 clubs that you mentioned there, and they're ahead of them. So fingers crossed for Leeds that they'll keep out of it.
Liam, just a final thought from you. Big night for Arsenal tonight, going to Crystal Palace, coached by Patrick Vieira, who is, of course, a legend of Arsenal. And this is a tough game. They don't give much away at home. I mean, they've drawn 7 home matches, won 4 and lost 4. And they've only conceded 17 goals in 15 games at home. This isn't going to be easy, do you think?
Not at all, Eamon, no. I think Palace are playing really well. The crowd are really behind Vieira. Whereas Roy Hodgson was a very pragmatic manager, very defensive-minded, not to get beat. I think Vieira's brought in a philosophy of let's go for teams, let's attack teams.
Yeah.
And they've got some, particularly Saha, if he's on his day.
And he can really in midfield is full of
he's a Chelsea loanee. Yeah, he's been good. He was good for England during the week. We've been talking about him this season as probably one of the best young players there is around. So they're a fine team, Palace. John mentioned Wolves have been a good team, and in the Premier League standard, well, Palace are in that category, I think, and they're going to give Arsenal a very hard game. And, the Arsenal players, as well as the Palace players, they've been away on international duty, so we'll have to see how they respond to that. But I'm really looking forward to the game. It's a great opportunity for Arsenal to get back into the Champions League this season. But as I said to you before, Eamon, they haven't really done it against the top teams. Right. And Palace are going to be a difficult opponent tonight.
Okay. John and Liam, thank you both very much for joining us. John Giles and Liam Brady, two great players, two great analysts, and we're very happy that we have them